All right, so I made a couple videos talking about all the amazing stuff that movie theaters are doing to bring people back into the cinema, and mostly the feedback on those videos has been very positive. People are very encouraged to hear that, although a lot of people are unconvinced, and I get it. You've been hearing a lot of stuff about the movie theater experience dying, and you probably wonder where I'm getting all of this from. Well, I was making another video about the affordability problem, which a lot of movie theaters are addressing in their own ways. While I was doing the research for that video, I realized I should just do a video showing all the research that I'm finding. So this is going to be a presentation of basically all the research, and this is just in the last 2 years, because there's so much research that's been done out there, but I'm just going to focus on the most recent trends that have been uncovered in all of these different studies and surveys and whatnot. And you'd be surprised. Like I said, what you've probably been hearing a lot of from all the naysayers out there, most of it is just flat wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through each of these studies and surveys and sort of pull out the highlights. Mostly I want to focus on the stuff you're not hearing about. So if you want to go and check these studies to see if there's any other information that maybe I missed, I'll drop them in the comment section so you can go check them out yourself. But I really just want to highlight stuff that might surprise you. Trends that you would not expect are happening. So there's a couple broad strokes. First of all, everyone's going to the movies more often, not less. Also, like I've been saying, movies that appear in theaters have more cultural relevance. And they've actually asked moviegoers this, and they say the same thing. Like, yeah, if a movie appears in a theater, they're more likely to consider it more culturally relevant. Also, the idea that young people specifically are not wanting to go to the movies as much as millennials and Gen X, that's also not true. There are several studies that I'm going to go into that specifically say that. Also, people at all ages prefer premium experiences. And most importantly, the industry is expected to grow, not shrink. So those are some of the broad strokes. And these studies, they're wide-ranging. Some of them are from the industry itself. Some of them are independent research groups that are usually hired by a company or somebody to do like a survey or a poll or whatever, just to accumulate market analysis and stuff like that. Others are just a company did a survey. And so they basically break down the demographics of people who go to the movies. They break them down by age and gender. They differentiate between loyal moviegoers and casual moviegoers. The definition usually changes depending on the survey. Sometimes it's 3 movies a year, sometimes it's 6 movies a year. But in all cases, they find that movie-going habits do not decrease in either category. Whether you're a loyal moviegoer, meaning you go to the movies all the time, or you're a casual moviegoer where you only go once in a while, it's still true that people in both categories are more likely to go to the movies more often today than they did a year ago. And they're planning to go to the movies more over the next year. So basically everything that you thought you knew is not true. They're saying young people prefer to watch movies at home on their own devices, but it turns out that's not true. They're saying most people don't believe that movies provide value, that going to the movies doesn't provide value. That's not true. The idea that most people would rather wait for streaming for a movie rather than see it in a movie theater, that's not true. Some people even say people would rather go to a sporting event than go to a movie theater. That's not true. Like in all of these cases. So in all the research I'm about to present, all of these points are just wrong. They're just flat wrong. So if you don't believe me that the cinema's not dying, just watch the rest of this video, because I'm going to lay it all out. And again, like I said, I'm going to drop the research in the comments so you can go check it out yourself. Some of these I can't link to the study itself because the study is usually behind a paywall. I think one of these was like $300 if you want to read the whole study, which I'm just not going to do that. But there are highlights in various articles that have reported on these studies. So I'm going off of that in some cases, but in most cases you can just go read it yourself. So like I said, some of this might be research from the industry itself. So in some cases, it might be worth it to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because if you think about like when companies produce earnings reports, they're going to be a little bit fluffy. They're going to be a little bit like giving you the best possible picture of what things look like. So I'm totally fine if you take some of this with a grain of salt, but the reason I'm presenting it all together is so that you can see that these patterns show up no matter who's doing the study. There might be slight variances in demographics, let's say, but the overall trends are pretty much the same. So with all that said, if you want to know where I'm getting all of these crazy ideas that the movie industry is not dying, without further ado, here we go. Here's the research. Oh no, Alan's all tiny. Okay, so the first one is the Global Cinema Federation. This is the international trade organization for movie theaters. It represents 65 to 70% of global box office sales, so they're kind of a big organization. This survey in particular, they surveyed 68,000 people, and those responses were in 15 different markets. So this is what they found. One of the most interesting things on this graph is only 6% would prefer to wait and watch movies on streaming. That number seems really low. Also, they looked at barriers to going to watch a movie in a theater. Like, that's all the things that would prevent somebody from going to watch a movie, like if they don't have enough time or if they're having a hard time finding a theater near you or whatever. 64% said that there's pretty much nothing that would stop a person from seeing a movie if they want to go see a movie. So that seems like a pretty good number. Also, 24% overall are spending less on entertainment, while 19% overall are spending more on entertainment. But they're finding that the people who are spending more on entertainment are spending more of that on movies as opposed to any other category. So other stuff that's mentioned in this study, 72% report attending cinemas more or the same as they did 6 months ago. 68% report enthusiasm for the upcoming movie lineup. And out of that number, 83% of those aged 34 and under feel the same way. And over 2/3 can recall at least one upcoming film that they're eager to watch in theaters. So that all speaks to people wanting to go to the movies based on what's coming out in the theaters. And then also, loyalty members jumped 12% from 2023 to 2024. So there seems to be more loyal moviegoers being created. That's what that last statistic seems to be suggesting, which tracks with all the other stuff on the screen here. So the next one is Cinema United. This is an organization that used to be called NATO, which thankfully they changed the name because that name was totally stupid. It used to be called National Association of Theater Owners. So they changed the name to Cinema United. They've done 2 reports that I'm looking at in this. Some of the numbers are about the same between the 2 different reports, so I just kind of combined them. So this one has one of the more startling statistics, which I mentioned in my last video, which is that 76% of Americans aged 12 to 74 attended at least one movie in the last year, which amounts to about 200 million Americans, which is a shockingly high number. And again, that's probably like a statistical thing, but still, it shows a pretty startling trend. It also represents a 12% increase between 2023 and 2024. They also looked at the types of movies that increased over that time. There's a 5% increase in comedies over the last 2 years, a 38% increase in horror over the last 2 years, which is not surprising because they're really cheap and easy to make and they always do well. 25% increase in independent films in the last 2 years as well. So they also looked at the movie theaters themselves, and they found that the Cinema United theaters reinvested $1.5 billion back into their theaters this year. And those investments impacted 100,000 jobs. 39% of their members will add PLF screens moving forward. 58% will upgrade their sound systems. And 200 plus PLFs have been added since 2023. And 10% of all tickets sold are dine-in tickets. So that all tracks with what I've been talking about as well. So the next one is Fandango. They did a study back in March of last year, which I thought this is actually one of the more interesting surveys because they look at movie-going habits specifically among people who are buying tickets and how they're buying tickets and why they're buying tickets online and stuff like that. So as far as what moviegoers actually prefer to watch, 77% prefer premium experiences, which is not shocking. 16% jump in Real D 3D interest year over year. That's interesting because that shows that 3D specifically is trending up. 67% of loyal moviegoers prefer to see a movie in the highest quality. And 46% of casual moviegoers don't care about the format. So a lot of this is coming from loyal moviegoers who really want to see the movies in the best format possible, but casual moviegoers are the ones who don't really care. Also, something I mentioned in my other video about event cinema, 80% expressed interest in alternative content, which includes things like sporting events and TV premieres and finales. So event cinema, like I said in the other video, is definitely going to be popular. It is definitely in demand right now. Also, they looked at movie-going challenges, like things that might get in the way of going to see a movie, finding deals on movie tickets, coordinating schedules, setting aside time, budgeting, and finding the right theaters. These are all the biggest challenges. I think what's interesting from this is two of these things movie theaters can actually do something about, that being the finding the right theater and finding deals on movie tickets. The finding deals on movie tickets, movie theaters are already responding to that problem with the affordability thing, like by providing loyalty programs and discounts and stuff like that. Finding the right theater, though, I mean, you might see all these articles about AMC closed another movie theater. Well, a lot of times they're closing a movie theater so that they can reopen a theater in a location that makes more sense for people who actually want to go see the movies. So movie theaters are being a little bit more careful about where they open up movie theaters to make sure that they're in a location where people actually want to go to the movies. So those are the two things that I think movie theaters can actually respond to off of this list, and I think that they're doing that. And finally, reasons for buying tickets online. They looked at that. For both loyal and casual moviegoers, skipping lines, reserving seats, securing showtimes, booking anywhere, anytime, anywhere, the convenience of that, and comparing ticket prices. So that's basically true for loyal moviegoers and casual moviegoers alike. 90% of loyal and 80% of casual moviegoers are members of at least one free loyalty program. And 50% of loyal and 30% of casual moviegoers subscribe to at least one paid subscription service. And that number is probably going to go up, especially given what some of movie theaters are doing to offer deals and stuff like that. So the next one is an odd one. It's called Gitnux. This is one of those outside marketing firms that does market analysis and research. It's one of those companies where you could pay them to go do a study for you. And this one came out in April of last year. So some of what this one found, average moviegoer attends 4.4 movies annually. Number of movie screens worldwide has surpassed 200,000 for the first time in 2022. Approximately 65% of US adults have gone to the movies at least once in the past year, which is pretty close to the 72% number in the other study. Repeat moviegoers, which they define as 3 per year, has increased by 10% over the last 5 years. So, like I said, loyal moviegoers are increasing over time. So next we have National Research Group. There's 2 reports that they've put out, one from 2024 at the end of 2024 and one towards the end of 2025 that I looked at in this one. I kind of combined these two. So actually this is where that 76% of Americans have seen at least one movie in the last year statistic comes from, was this group. But they also gave a very interesting analogy. That's more people annually than attend sporting events for all of the major sports combined. So all the people who attend and watch their teams play in the NFL, the MLB, the NBA, and NHL combined, more people are still going to the movies, which is kind of bonkers. 60% want to see movies opening weekend, which is another statistic that keeps coming up again and again in these studies. 80% feel that a movie is more impactful in culture if it's available in theaters. They also look at the demographics. 90% of Gen Z females and 89% of Gen Z males see at least one movie a year. 55% of Gen Alpha see moviegoing as a social activity best done with friends. That's something that's going to come up again and again. 65% of Gen Alpha want to see movies in IMAX or something similar. And that number is 75% for Gen Z and millennials. So this one has a lot of interesting data on how young people are engaging with the cinema, and it kind of shows that the trends are not really falling off for young people. But again, that's going to come up again and again. So another one is Business Research Insights. This is the most recent study, actually, as of my recording of this. It just came out this month, actually like 2 weeks ago, I want to say. So this is like the most current. They find movie theater market is expected to rise from 82 billion to 182 billion by 2035. That is a 121% increase, which is insane. That's like the market is going to double in the next 10 years, is what this study has found. They're finding 51% of that growth is going to come from North America. 28% is going to come from Asia Pacific. And so the study actually digs in to find where that growth is coming from specifically, like what's causing it. Premium formats, shocker, accounts for 42% of all total box office in 2024. Luxury seating and dine-in represents 27% of new construction. Digital projection now represents 61% worldwide. And they talk about this emerging trend of sustainability. So all the new theaters that are going in all over the world are featuring eco-friendly and energy-efficient designs, which is something I did not expect. But as far as the trends that are actually causing this growth, in North America, they talk about technology and demand are going to be the biggest drivers of growth in North America. Technology, of course, being the laser projection, the IMAX, all the different bells and whistles that they're offering as far as the presentation itself, and demand as far as just movies. Like there's just so much demand to see movies of a wide variety. In Europe, premium experiences and festivals. So premium experiences meaning like dine-in movie theaters, luxury seating, and to some extent the presentation itself too, like IMAX and stuff like that. But also festivals was an interesting one, but it makes sense because they have a lot of different festivals. Every country has their own festivals. But in Europe, they have high-speed rail, so you can just go visit festivals all the time. And plus they have a very social atmosphere already out there, so that makes sense. And also Asia, urbanization, technology, and films. Urbanization, that one is also kind of makes sense if you think about it, because in Asia, urbanization is a really big trend right now. People are coming from the country into the city looking for work and stuff like that. So they're planning for that. And also technology and films makes a lot of sense too, because like years ago, going back to Avatar, the reason Avatar changed the industry in a lot of ways is because China in particular found that movie was so popular that all kinds of Chinese money came into Hollywood to make any kind of big flashy movie they can possibly make. And so the bigger, the flashier became something that was driven by the Asian markets. So the Asian markets are already hungry for these big, flashy Marvel type movies. So that also makes sense. And so I saved the best for last. This one was really kind of an interesting one. UCLA does this Teens and Screens survey every year. And I looked at the last two that they've done, and this survey is so fun. So they looked at the preferred activity of 10 to 24-year-olds, and this is from 2024. They find that seeing a movie during opening weekend is the number one activity of all the activities they looked at. Number 2 is going to a concert. Number 2 is playing a video game the day it's released or right after it's released. Number 4 is streaming a movie from your own device when it premieres. Number 5 is binging a new show when it's released. And last place is attending a live sports event. However, in 2025, seeing a movie opening weekend is still number 1. Actually, the list is very similar, except for going to a concert. It has dropped to 5th place because I assume because it's super expensive to go see concerts these days. But sports events still at the bottom. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Going to the movies, number 1 choice for young women, number 2 choice for young men, behind video games. 48% said they talk about TV shows and movies more than they talk about social media. And that number is now 53% in the newest one. Most important deciding factors in deciding what movie to go see is the plot of the story, accessibility, like being able to see the movie. But plot of the story is an interesting one. I forgot to add it to the slide, but there's like a whole section talking about, they call them nomances, which are like romance films, but they don't have romance in them. They're actually focused on friendship. And so they're talking about how young people in particular, they're sick and tired of seeing the love triangle and stuff like that, like Twilight, like those types of movies. They want to see more movies where nobody gets together in the end. It's just friends. And I'm like, oh, so you mean like Lord of the Rings? Okay. I thought that was kind of funny. Also, the least important deciding factors, advertisements and influencer recommendations. So good on you, Gen Z, for not taking your movie recommendations from people on Instagram. So other random facts that I found, I didn't look at all these studies, but there were a couple other random facts out there. Mintel did a survey where they found 85% plan to go to the movies as often or more often over the next year. UTA IQ did a study last year that found 72% of US Gen Z and millennials agree that togetherness of seeing a movie in theaters became more important post-pandemic, which I think is a great note to end on. So there you go. That should give you a pretty good idea of what's going on in the industry. Hopefully it paints a clearer picture of what's actually going on. I think the key takeaway is that people of all ages want to go to the movies to see movies. And the biggest thing that needs to happen is we need more movies. So if you have anybody who needs convincing that the movie theater industry is not dying, that the movie going experience is not dying, you can point them to this video. Because hopefully this makes it pretty clear that at the very least, there are counterfactuals now. There's plenty of data that says that actually it's trending in the other direction. Like some of these statistics, it wouldn't be possible if the movie industry was dying for these statistics to show up. So there is reason for hope. Of course, on the other hand, the economy could totally tank this year, which it totally might. And every day, it kind of seems more and more likely that that might actually happen. But that's a totally separate issue from whether or not the movie industry specifically is on life support, which I definitely don't think that it is. I think the movie industry is ready for a new golden age, and all the writing is on the wall. So get excited. So I will tackle the issue of affordability in the next video, and I will see you in that video.